Good evening. My name's Drew Robbins. I'm a technical evangelist at Microsoft. If you're in the previous session, I'm on the same team with Giorgio Sardo, and we got our sessions going back to back here so we can talk a little bit about the store. How many of you are excited about the couple thousand Surface devices that are waiting for you out here in the hallway? I noticed that the room is actually leaning, like there's more people towards the exit here, ready for that immediate exit to go get your Surface device. And I have stood between an audience and lunch before, and I stood between an audience and dinner before, but I don't think I've ever stood between an audience and a couple thousand awesome devices that await them in the hallway. So we are going to talk about the store, and I'm excited tonight for a different reason. I'm excited because of the journey we've really taken over the last year. I was part of Build last year, and it was exciting to tell people about this new product, Windows 8, and the opportunity they would have. Over the last year, we've been able to go out and talk to hundreds of thousands of developers around the world at our developer camps. And all of the audiences are just so energetic and so excited for a lot of reasons. One is because the technology is just so cool. The devices that are coming are cool. Now they're here, right? And it's even more exciting. But the reason they're most excited, and the session that they get most excited in, is our store session, and when we tell them about the economic opportunity that they have, which is really the most significant economic opportunity for developers really ever in our industry. And so Giorgio talked a lot about that opportunity in the previous session. I encourage you, if you weren't there, or if you didn't get a chance to watch it earlier, go back to the online recorded session and watch that, because he talks a lot about just the numbers and the different ways that you can continue to broaden your reach. I'm going to talk about how we implement some of those things so that you can build this into your app, so as people are using your app, they're also helping you earn money. It's great when we get our customers to help us. We help our customers to give us money is always great. So let me review a little bit about what Giorgio talked about. There's 5 really attributes we talk about the store. One is it's designed for discovery. We want to make sure that people can find your application, whether it's finding it on a Bing search, finding it through a marketing campaign that you execute and bring people to your website and then lead them to your app, or making it really easy for them to find your app in the store. And that's all really to help you tap into the unprecedented reach that is the store. Giorgio talked a lot about the number of devices that are coming, the 450 million that are projected to be sold next year with Windows 8 on it. That's a huge opportunity. And then you count all of the devices that are already in market that are being upgraded. Steve Ballmer this morning talked about the 4 million that have already upgraded to Windows 8 just in the first few days that it's been available. And so the reach that we have, not only in sheer numbers, but just the global reach as well in all the different markets around the world, is pretty incredible and exciting as well. And then not only that, but we have one of the most flexible stores for you to really find a business model that works for your business. And we're going to talk about several of those different business models and how to implement them into your application tonight. And then finally, just making sure that it's easy for you to get your application in the store. Building a great app, getting in a store is not necessarily an easy thing to do, but we certainly want to make sure that it's a predictable thing for you, that you have a set of transparent terms that let you know whether you're going to be able to get your app in the store or not. And then finally, we've got the best economics. The revenue share that we offer with the 70% up to $25,000 and then the 80% beyond that is a significant factor when you consider if your app is really successful, the extra amount of money that we're going to share with you around the revenue that you earn for your application. And so let's quickly then review the different options you have. And then I want to show you a few of the implementations in different apps, and then we'll talk about how to implement it in your own app. And so we have, of course, the one-time purchase option as far as being able to sell your application. And there's a couple different options here. You can certainly put your app in the store and offer it just as a purchase only and let people buy that app and then download it. and not offer a trial. Giorgio talked a little bit about the importance of trials and the fact that you get a lot of conversion from trials, and it can really increase the amount of people that buy your app. So we recommend that you offer some sort of trial. There's a couple different ways to do that. One is you can do a time-limited trial. Time-limited trials are super easy. You just put your app in the store and you say, here's how long I want people to be able to use my app before they're forced to purchase it. Before they're given the opportunity to purchase it. And then there's feature differentiated trials. And feature differentiated trials are when you provide features in a trial, maybe a limited set of features in the trial. And then when the person purchases your application, you light up some additional features in the purchase version. Of course, you can also offer purchases over time, whether you want to offer in-app purchases to your customers so they can add on things to, say, a game, or purchase new magazines or books inside of a reader application. You can also do expiring purchases where you offer for a certain amount of time somebody have access to a feature of your application. You can do that as well. And so we have these purchases over time that you can use. Of course, we offer, again, a very flexible system, and we talked about this a couple of times today, that you can certainly use your own commerce options if you'd like, whether you want to include PayPal's new Windows 8 API, or you want to include your own commerce. You have that opportunity with the store as well. And of course, we don't share in any of that revenue. You get all of that revenue, or whatever you share with your third-party commerce engine. And then another way to have your application earn some cash for you is to be ad-supported. So you can offer an application for free, put some advertisements in the application, and you can do that very easily with Microsoft's SDK, or you can use your own as well. And so that's an overview of kind of the different options. And so let's take a look at several different applications that implement some of these different business models. And so the first thing I want to do is, we talked a little bit about discoverability, the fact that we want to make it easy for people to find your application. And Giorgio showed Bing. I'll show you Cut the Rope, which is a popular game. And the Cut the Rope site actually allows you to bring up the site and begin to play the game. But if you really like the game, and this is written in HTML, the Windows 8 app happens to be written in HTML as well. But if you like the game, and of course you can always say, hey, I want to go purchase the app. And so I've already downloaded this application. If I hadn't downloaded the application, it would take me to the store where I could actually go and install the trial or purchase it. If I have it installed, then it'll actually take me directly to the app. And so this is a great way too, if you do marketing campaigns that bring people to your website, you can make it really easy for them to transition into your application if that's where all the commerce is occurring. So you bring people to your site, you promote some new program or some new offering in the app, and then you can quickly switch them into your application as well. So great way to convert customers who are coming to your website. So another option is to do time-limited trials. This is a great way to, if you're going to offer your application for some sort of price, you can have a time-limited trial. And I have one of those here. Actually, I think I don't have the time-limited trial app installed. The one I like to use, oh, here it is. Wacky Word Search. I just didn't put it here. So Wacky Word Search actually does something unique where it offers a time-limited trial, but then after the time limit is up, they actually have coded into their application to then move to a feature-differentiated trial. And so what they do is actually keep track of how long the application has been in trial mode, but then they offer this ability at any point to upgrade to full. Now, the really powerful thing about doing this with the Windows Store, when you build this into your application, is that it happens without the user going and downloading anything new, and it happens without even having to reset the application. So as soon as I say go ahead and buy and confirm the purchase, this word search will just instantly transform into the purchased application, light up whatever extra features they're going to offer, or if they're going to offer advertising or whatever in the trial, then they would immediately take that away. So then another option is to offer in-app purchases. Or actually, let me do feature differentiated trials really quick. So so this is actually a game from Microsoft Studios, and they implemented a feature differentiated trial. And what this does is it basically gives you a few levels for free. It's actually a really fun game to play, especially when you get your Surfaces. Just go and grab this game. You can see it's already offering me to go ahead and purchase. But you can see they have several different modes that are locked down here. And basically in the free mode, you get to go through 3 levels. And then you get to go over those 3 levels as many times as you want. The trial never ends. But if you want to go beyond what those 3 levels are, and you hit one of these other levels, then what happens is it pops up and says, hey, in order to unlock that level, you need to purchase the full game. And again, same thing. If I hit yes, and I went to the store and confirmed this purchase, then this application will immediately turn over to the full game. So then the next thing is offering in-app purchases. And we talked a little bit about this in the keynote this morning with the CrowdStar application, where you can really have a lot of fun inside of an application, especially like a game, offering a way to purchase things in the game. And we see this in all kinds of games, from Xbox, the Xbox offering you the ability to even put clothing on your character, your avatar in Xbox, to games like this where there's an in-app currency that you earn, but if you want to skip forward and really have a lot more money in the app, you can certainly do that as well. And so in this case, maybe I want to put this hat on my character, my Nougat character, and I want to buy that. Maybe I want to, I don't have enough coins, so then it's offering, well, how many coins do you want to purchase from the store? And as soon as I hit that, I can go ahead and buy 1,000 coins for $12. And $12 is pretty reasonable, considering the game we showed this morning, the chest full of pearls that he clicked on actually was $100 in-app purchase. And so it's both scary as a parent, offering my Surface to a child. At the same time, it's pretty exciting as a developer to think that there's an ecosystem, there's a set of people out there who really have a lot of fun playing these games and making these in-app purchases. So that's another opportunity for you. Of course, we also talked about in-app purchases using your own commerce engine. And so Newegg actually has been around for a long time. I think most of us are familiar with Newegg, being in the tech industry. And they offer a great catalog. They have a great Windows 8 app. But when you go to purchase things, they already have a commerce engine. They've been in business a long time. And the last thing they want is to be forced by a platform to move into a different business model or a different commerce engine. And so, of course, with the flexibility of the Windows Store, I'm able to add this to my cart. I can eventually go and check out. And when I check out, I don't know how far I go before it actually starts charging me. So we'll let our imagination run wild here. But once I check out, it actually uses Newegg's commerce engine here. So the nice thing about that too is they already have a customer list as well, right? And so they're able to leverage their existing database, their existing commerce, their existing customer list to make this application an extension of their current business versus trying to reinvent that just to get their app on a platform. So another model that you'll see applications use is a subscription model like Netflix. And Netflix is a service that's available in the US for streaming movies online. And you can see right there, it's only $7.99 a month. But what this does is basically it has a subscription service. And again, in this case, it's a third-party commerce. It's an engine that Netflix already has that they've brought to the platform and allowed those people who have a subscription with Netflix to continue to get that premium content here on Windows 8. So that's another business model you can go after. And finally, another way that you can really earn some money with your application is to offer advertising in your application. And there's a couple different ways to do that. One is a popular application called Wordemit has ads in their game. And I've tried and tried and tried to get good at this game, but I have not succeeded yet. So if you ever see my avatar on there, don't look for high scores from me. But as you're playing the game, you can see there's constantly an ad at the bottom that's being refreshed. And that's a lot of value to the advertisers to have that positioning in the game. And it's a lot of value to Wordemit because that's how they're earning some income from having people play this game. And now what Wordament can do is they can offer this application for free. They don't need to worry about actually having people purchase it. Another way that you can do advertising, though, as well, is through including it in your content. And so Associated Press also has ads in their content. And as you scroll across, you'll see, here we go. So as you scroll across, you'll see in line with all their different articles, there's an advertisement right within the content. And so you can really get creative in how you expose these ads and fit it into the experience. And Giorgio showed earlier a really fancy ad that had a whole other experience that kind of expanded across the app that actually enhanced the overall app experience. And so you can get creative in not only making the advertisement support your app, but also making it an extended experience of your app as well. So those are several different apps that implement a lot of the different business models that are available to you through the Windows Store. Let me switch back here. And so I'm going to go through now each of the kind of things where you can implement something in code to integrate with the Windows Store. I'm not going to cover in this session implementing third-party commerce or the subscription models, but I'll cover the things where there's an API available to you to make it really easy and quick to start earning cash with your application. So again, for trials, there's time limited and there's feature differentiated, and we'll talk about both. First of all, time limited is really easy. When you submit your application, you'll have an opportunity to say, hey, I don't want to offer a trial, or I want to offer a trial that never expires, or I want to offer a trial that has some expiration to it. And so if you're going to do feature differentiated, often what you're going to do is say, I want a trial that never expires. So that allows your application to have a trial mode, and then you can build the logic into your application that will turn on and off features based on whether it's in a trial. If you want to do the time limited, then there's really no code to write. You just take your existing application, you submit it to the store, pick one of those expiration times, and then we'll handle the transaction of when they get past, say, 7 days, offering that opportunity to go purchase the application. So trial conversion, you're going to see none of this is really complicated as far as the APIs. Basically, what we're going to do is use a store API. We're going to ask the store for license information, and then we're going to offer to the customer to purchase our applications. And so in the case of trial conversion, what we're going to do is just say, let the customer know that it's a trial that you're using. Maybe you offer that there's features that you could have if you had the full version, or maybe you offer that the advertisements will go away. But then you give them the opportunity, and if they take the opportunity to purchase the application, then we make a request to the store, and we say the user wants to purchase this application, go ahead and transact, and let me know if they complete the purchase, and if they do, then we'll start giving them the premium features. When you're building your applications, I'll cover this quickly, you need some way to test your app, right? You want to be able to simulate this transaction without actually going against the real store because your app's not in the store yet. The way we offer that is through this thing called the simulator. And the simulator is actually driven through an XML file that you'll include in your project. And I'll bring up this XML file for our project, and we'll go through it a little bit, and you'll see how it impacts the behavior of the application as you're testing it. But know that this XML file exists. You need it to actually turn on the simulator and drive different behaviors that you want to test. And so let's go and see how this works. So before we do that, I want to show you one more app, which is our demo app for today. And let's just drop to the desktop and run this application. Now this is the Contoso Cookbook. The Contoso Cookbook is a demo application that you can actually download. If you go out to the web and you search for Windows Camp in a Box, you'll come to this page in the Download Center. And you can download either a C# XAML version of it, or you can download a JavaScript HTML version of it. We're going to use the JavaScript HTML version today. But included in this is not only the demos or the code that I show you today, but there's about a dozen or so labs that you can walk through all the different capabilities of Windows 8 and how to build them into your application. It's a great resource for you. And so know that this Contoso Cookbook is available in that Camp in a Box. And so let me switch back to Contoso Cookbook. And let's take a look. So it's just a basic cookbook application. It's got different recipes. It's got some beautiful pictures here. And then it's got the directions and the ingredients of how to build these recipes. It's got a couple different features in it. You can do things like you can search. And again, all of the labs go through these different features. So I can search for steamed buns, go back into, or fried dumplings in this case, and go back into this particular recipe. We've got other things like camera integration. So if you want to brag, you can actually take a photo or a video of the thing you cooked and then brag to your friends about what you cooked. You can do things like share the recipe. All the different features of Windows 8 are really included here. Now what we want to do is take this application from what is right now completely free and no opportunity for us to really make some money here, and we want to start making some money. And what I'm going to do is actually take a lot of the business models over the course of the next few minutes and build them all into one application. And I like to say it's because I'm greedy. You're going to probably want to choose the business models that work for you and then pick the right experiences that make sense for your application. But we're going to build a bunch in over the next few minutes. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to offer to the user the ability to take this from what will be a trial version to a full version. And I'm going to do that through this About page. And so this About page here is just another set of HTML. We're going to add some UI to this to show that it's in the trial version and then offer the ability for them to do a purchase. And so let's switch to Visual Studio. And the first thing I'm going to do is we talked about that license file that I need in order to simulate. And again, since I'm not actually in the store with my application yet, I need some way to test it without going against the store. And so this license.xml is actually how I'm going to configure the in-app simulator for the store. And what this does is it defines really the same information that I would normally have defined in the store portal. So most of these things are either in the app manifest or they're actually in the store portal. For example, the price of the application is stored up in the store portal. And you'll see that there's an API for querying that. And the reason that we offer the ability for people to query that is because if you want to change the price of your application for some period, maybe you're doing a promo and you want to drop it to $9.99, having your application actually query the store for that current information, make sure it's always up to date with what the current price is. And so, again, what we offer here is the ability to define it just like you would normally define in the store so that then we can call those APIs and get those values when we're testing our application. And then finally, at the bottom of the file is what you could call the current state of the licensing information. And so what this lets you do is say, hey, when the application starts, I want it to be in the trial state. Or I want to test my application when it's in the purchase state at start versus trying to transition during the app. And so you can, again, you can kind of switch these values and say, it's not an active application, it shouldn't work, or it's not in trial mode, it's actually been purchased. And that when I launch that application now, it'll be in that particular mode. So that's how you're going to end up using this XML file. However, to use this, to bring this into your application, I'm going to include it in the project here so it gets built into the package, but I also need to load it into the app simulator. And the way that I'm going to do that is just to go into my default JavaScript file. And during activation, I'm going to load this XML file and put it into the simulator. And so let's scroll down here to an appropriate spot. Let's just see. This looks pretty good right here. So it's in that activated handler. And I've got some snippets here, so you don't have to watch me type. But basically, this is pretty simple. All we're doing is using a WinRT API, and we're calling Windows Application Model Package. We're getting the current package, and then we're looking for that file in the installed location. So basically saying, hey, I know that thing's going to be in data license.xml. When we have that file, when that file has been loaded up in the memory, we're doing a callback. If you haven't seen this, this is the asynchronous callback in JavaScript. It's the promise framework that we have. And so basically what happens is when this file gets loaded asynchronously, the logic will continue here in our our function, our completed function. And what I'm going to do with that file, which is available right here, is actually just load it into the simulator. So here's current app simulator. I'm going to reload the simulator file and just pass it that file. Okay? So that's all we're doing, is we're getting that file out of the application installed location and loading it into our current app simulator. That will initialize the simulator with those values that we inputted. Okay? So now I want to use that. I want to start building in that trial conversion into our About page. And so here's the About HTML we have. And if you recall from the UI, you saw a Contoso cookbook header and then some words trial version. I'm actually going to replace that with our purchase button. So it's going to say trial version. And then what we're going to do is have a button called purchase. And when the user clicks that purchase button, then we'll actually initiate the store purchase. And so to do that, then, I'm going to go into our JavaScript for the About page. And in the ready function is where we're going to wire this all up. And so the first thing that we'll do is we're just going to check to see if we're in trial right now. Now you'll notice one thing here is that I'm constantly referring to current app simulator. When you deploy your application, you don't want to be using current app simulator anymore. You want to be using current app. If you use current app simulator, you actually won't pass certification anymore. And you're going to see that I use current app simulator throughout my code. What I recommend is that you do this in a central place in your application code so you can easily switch it over later before you submit to the store. Does that make sense? So define a reference to this thing when your app first loads it, and then use it elsewhere in your app, so that way you can quickly switch that to current app later. But what you can do with that, and the API is exactly the same. So it's literally when you're ready to move over to putting your app in the store, you remove that, and now you have current app. Okay? So we're going to, again, use the simulator. But once I have a reference to that, now what I can do is I can start querying the store for different information. For example, I can query and say, hey, is my application in a trial mode? If it is in a trial mode, what we'll do is go ahead and fill in our button that we created with some text that says, hey, you can upgrade to the full version for whatever the price is. And so again, we're going to query the store for the price rather than build that into our app, so that if we change the price later through the store UI, the app will always have the latest price. And then if we're not in trial version, then what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and output that the application has been purchased and it's valid through some expiration date. So you do have the ability to offer apps and products with an expiration date, and you then can access to see what that expiration date is if you want to display it in your application. In our case, the expiration date will be far off in the future because we're going to not do a time-limited purchase. So let's actually run this and see how this works. So I go to the About page. Now what I have is this big button here that says I can upgrade to the full version for $12.99. Oh, and we missed one step, which is we're going to wire up that button, which is why it was dead. And so last thing we're going to do is when it's in trial mode, what we'll do is we'll define on button click. We'll actually then tell the store, hey, the user's asking to purchase the application. Please go and request an app purchase, and that will trigger the UI for the store purchase to actually occur. So let's go to Settings About and hit the upgrade. And now what happens is this thing pops up. And if you've used any store apps and done any store purchases, you saw me do a few of them earlier, you know that's not the store UI. This is actually the simulator UI. And what this allows you to do is actually test different responses from the store. So you can test an OK response, a fail response, even things like an out-of-memory condition. And basically that allows you to say, hey, even when the thing got the button got pushed, what happens if the user doesn't complete that purchase? I want to make sure my application responds appropriately. So in this case, I'll say OK. If I go back to settings now, you'll see now we've purchased this application and it's valid through 9,999, so forever. Okay. So that's great. So that's trial conversion, the ability to actually say, hey, you're in a trial mode, and convert that user. And you notice that I never restarted the application. Once I went through that purchase process, the application continued to run, and we instantly turned into a purchased app mode. So what about in-app purchases? Those are very similar in how easy they are to do. Again, we'll have a reference to the app simulator, the current app, and we'll ask the store for information about the listings that we have, the products that we have in the store. And you can define whatever products you want and the identifiers that you want to identify those products by. And then you can query the store on, again, price, whether the user has actually purchased it, the expiration for the purchase, all those things. And so let's go actually back into our app and see how this can be implemented. And so we have all these recipes. One thing that we might want to do is actually offer some premium content that you can purchase. And what we're going to do is actually take the Italian recipes and offer those up for an additional in-app purchase. Okay, so we'll not offer the directions until they actually purchase this product. So how can we do that? Well, let's go back into Visual Studio. And one thing you'll notice in our license.xml is that we defined a product called Italian recipes, and we offered it for 99 cents. And I can actually just go ahead and change this, and we'll see how it's querying that price. I'll switch it to $2.99. And so what I want to do is then on the item detail where that recipe gets shown, we're going to scroll down. And underneath the item directions, I'm going to add an in-app purchase button. I got it. So again, it's just a button, purchase recipes. And when that gets clicked, then the user will be prompted to purchase those particular recipes. And so in our JavaScript then, in the ready function, what we're going to do is go wire that up then. And this is actually where the item directions were inserted into the doc. And so I'm going to delete that. And instead, what I'll do is go back to the store and actually query now, is Italian recipes active? If it is, then go ahead and show the directions. Or if it's anything but Italian, then go ahead and show the directions. So any of the other cuisines will actually show the directions. Otherwise, what we're going to do is show that button that I listed. And inside the button, again, we'll put some information about purchasing the Italian recipes. We'll query the store again, and you'll notice what it does is it just allows me to dynamically call this property Italian recipes and then query different information on it, whether it's active or what the price is. So I'll get the formatted price, and then offer in that button, go ahead and purchase these Italian recipes for whatever that price is. And then when you click the button, again, what we'll do is we'll request from the store that this product be purchased. And we'll pass in that identifier, Italian recipes. Okay? And this will prompt the store to go ahead and say, to go ahead and prompt the user, hey, do you want to purchase this? Complete the purchase. And then let us know that that occurred, so then we can update the UI. Now you noticed on the app purchase as well as the recipe purchase is that there's this additional property or additional field called include receipt. Now include receipt, what that does, it allows you to actually get a receipt back from the store that allows you to validate that the user has purchased. So if you want to take that receipt and maybe pass it up to a service, and then on the server side actually validate that the user has access to some content that you're serving up, you can do that. And what I'll do is I'm going to actually set that to true. And then in order to collect that, I'm going to add receipt. And let's go ahead and run this. And so I should still see my Chinese recipes. But if I go to Italian, now I see the purchase button. And if I hit purchase, what it says is actually, this is an important note, is that you must go to settings and about and purchase the app first. And so one thing to note is that if you're going to do in-app purchases, then your application has to be in a purchased mode. Okay, so you can't have a trial have an in-app purchase. And so that's one thing to keep in mind. So let's actually go to settings about then, purchase this recipe, and now I can actually see the directions. Make sense? So that's an in-app purchase. Let's actually look at what this receipt looks like coming back. And so you can get a sense of what information you get there. And I'm going to run this again. Actually, what I want to do, set a breakpoint here. And let's run this. So again, settings, about, we'll purchase the app. I'm glad this is against the simulator and not the real store. Otherwise, I'd be spending a lot of money. We'll hit continue. Now what happens here is I have this breakpoint, and you see this receipt property. Let's actually bring this up in the XML visualizer. You see this is what you get back from the store when you ask for a receipt. And this, you can actually, it'll be signed when you go against the real store. You can pass this up against your own service and then validate it server-side if you want to lock some content behind a service. But this lets you know what the app ID is. You can get a machine ID from this receipt. So you can keep track of these different in-app purchases and then go ahead and offer the right content from your server as well. So that's your receipt. So we've done trial conversion. We've allowed people to purchase our app. We've done in-app purchases. So let's talk about advertising choices and ad-based revenue. And so again, you have the choice here. You can go between a Microsoft advertising option or you can do your own. And your own can be your third-party partner that you decide to bring into your app, or your own could be just something that you write up as well. In the case of Microsoft, there's a couple reasons that you might want to go with Microsoft advertising. One is that it's a really easy way to monetize your app. Again, we've got great partnerships with a lot of top advertisers, so we offer a lot of different opportunities for you to include advertising, rich advertising, and make some great revenue from that. The advertisers are also built to be very relevant. And so you get the opportunity to actually define in the advertising site on the Pub Center, what are the things, the themes that make sense for my app. So if I have a cookbook application and I want to include advertising, maybe I want food-focused advertising so that it's more effective, so that I get more click-throughs and then earn more revenue. And they also can be, again, an enhanced experience in your application. So they can actually improve or be built in such a way that it becomes a value add for your users as well. And then finally, it's super quick. It's really simple to get the ad SDK included in your app and get started with including advertising. And you can get all of the everything you need at windowsadvertising.com. So let's talk about how you do this. One is you download the ad SDK. So it's an extra ad SDK. It's completely free for you to download, included in Visual Studio, referenced in Visual Studio, and then included in your app. And even if you just want to experiment and see how it would work, again, there's nothing for you to actually have to register for. You can just download the ad SDK and start playing with it. Then number two is you'll activate Microsoft ads. And so eventually what you can do is go register for an account with the Pub Center, register your application, get an app ID, and then update the code that you just wrote to actually go against your Pub Center account. And so when you first start building, you can build using just some demo IDs that we give you, and you'll get a basic ad to get an idea of what it will be like. But then when you're ready to actually start earning that revenue, you'll register at the Pub Center to get started doing that. And then finally, you'll publish your app to the store. Your users will download it, and you'll start to earn that revenue, and you start to get the analytics that you get from Windows advertising to see how your app is doing as far as ad revenue goes. And so let's build that into our application now. Again, I want to build as many opportunities in here for me to earn some cash. So the first thing I'll do is let's add a reference to that add SDK. I had downloaded it earlier. I'll add this reference. And where I'm going to put my app, my ads, is actually on the item detail again. I figure as people are going into the different items and viewing those, I want those to be supported through some ad revenue. And so what I'll do here is actually go down into my references. They offer a JavaScript file here for me to include in my HTML, and that'll bring the Ad SDK into this page. And then what I want to do is just scroll down here, and in the right spot, I'll go ahead and include a div. And this div is where I'm going to include my ad. Now you have two different ways to do this. One is you can include a Windows, a WinJS control here that they produce for you, and it's really easy. So you can drop the advertising control in here. You can define the properties with your unit ID, your app ID, and your unit ID, and it will instantly turn on in your application. I'm going to do it through code because what we're going to do is when we convert to a purchased application, we're going to turn the advertisements off. And so I'm going to switch over to item detail. And inside our ready function, make sure I'm in the right space here. What we want to do, actually we want to do it below here. So we have a reference to that app simulator. We're just going to ask again, are we in trial mode? And if we're in trial mode, then what we want to do, so leave this stuff off for now, is get a reference to that div that I included in the HTML, and then instantiate the control, the ad control that they include, and then pass in my application ID and my ad unit ID. And that's all I have to do in order to get my ad showing up on my page. The last thing that I want to do then is go back to the about JavaScript, because what we want to do is when they purchase the app, we want to go ahead and turn the apps off for the current session as well. So they should just turn off immediately. And so here what I'm doing is just saying, hey, if you're on that page with an ad, go ahead and just remove it. And then the next time they move to another page, we'll have that other logic to say, hey, it's not in trial, so we won't even show the ad in the first place. And so let's try this out. We'll run this. And hopefully we'll have on our item detail page now an ad. And it usually takes a couple seconds to actually appear if we did everything correctly. I'll shake the wire, see if it is the internet here. Let's see. Let's take a look. Believe we did everything good. We passed in the div. We got my ad. We're not in trial. Let's try it one more time. I think it's just slow. So it's really just a few lines of code to get advertising turned on. And if it doesn't show up here in a few seconds, we'll just go ahead and move on from this. No, I didn't. Nope. I just removed some extra properties that set latitude and longitude. So when you create the control, you actually pass in the div tag that it inserts itself into. So. Oh. It's an attentive audience. That's good. That's good. Let's see. Thank you. That would do it. So now we will get an ad. There we go. All right. Ads are actually pretty easy. That's pretty exciting to be able to turn ads into your application so quickly. And so let's test then the About page. Let's upgrade to the full version. And once we upgrade, that ad goes away. So now I've got trial conversion. I've got in-app purchases. I've got some advertising. Again, I'm being a little bit greedy here and trying to build as many things into the app as possible. You really want to think through some of the things that you want to include and how it affects the experience of your app and what the best thing is for your customers. Because as Giorgio talked about, the first thing you want to do to have a successful app and make money in the store is build a great app. And so think about the things that will really help with that experience. So there's one other thing that I want to talk about how to implement, because it's important from making extra revenues. You want to get more users into your app. And we talked a little bit about discovery, but I want to talk about how you build that into your websites when you want to do that. And so discovery is that ability to go to, say, the Cut the Rope or Bing website, see that the little tool icon pop up and be able to switch to the store or to the current app if it's already installed. The way you do that is you're going to locate your app ID and your app package family name from your app manifest, and I'll show you that in just a second. You add 2 meta tags to your site, and that the Internet Explorer will look for those 2 meta tags whenever it loads a page, and if it sees them, then it will know that you want to allow people to switch to your app. The other thing you can do is decide to accept optional arguments that can be passed into your application as well. So if you want the transfer to be context sensitive and take them directly to a spot in your application, you can do that through the meta tags. And so these are the meta tags. The first 2 that are in bold are the ones that are required to make this work, and then the other 3 are optional. So you can do things like pass arguments. You can say there's a minimal version that I want them to have them have installed, or I want them to go back to the store. And then you also have the ability to opt out of some of the experience. And so if you wanted to turn off the install experience or turn off the switch to the app experience, you could do that as well. So let's take a look at this. And so what I have is a quick HTML file that I just want to load up here into come on, get over there. Oh, you got it. Just double click it then. And so what I want to do is actually remove this quickly. And then let's launch this in Internet Explorer. So we'll go to Internet Explorer, demos, Italian recipes.htm. So imagine this file being part of a website where maybe I'm promoting a new product, which is Italian recipes in my application. And I want to make it really easy for people to get to my application in order to get to those Italian recipes. And so to build that in then, you saw the meta tags there. I'm going to go fill those in, but I wanted to show you where you get those from. So if we go back to Visual Studio, and the place that we're going to find these values is actually in the app manifest. Fortunately, there's 2 different places that we have to look in the app manifest to get this right now. The first one is we need this package family name. And the one thing that confuses a lot of people is the package family name is the thing at the bottom. It's not the package name at the top. And you notice they look very similar, but one of them has an additional set of characters added to it to make sure it's unique. And so we'll copy that package family name and go back to our HTML. And we insert that in here in the package family name meta tag. And the other thing then we need is the app ID. And again, the app ID, don't be confused about where it is. None of these things are the app ID you need. The app ID is actually generated and stored in the XML. And so here it is. There's an application. There's an ID. For me, it's called app. It's actually generated from when you first create your project. If you ever want to change it, then you know where to find it. You certainly have the option to change it, but what I need now is just to copy that into my HTML. And we'll save that. And now let's go back to Internet Explorer and refresh this page. And you see now the wrench has this plus on it. And it says you can go ahead and switch to the Contoso Cookbook app. And I can build all this in. If I were to remove the Contoso Cookbook app, it would say switch to the store. And because I haven't submitted Contoso Cookbook to the store, it would actually take me to the front of the store page, which would be kind of broken. But as soon as you submit your app, then it would go and find that app in the store. In this case, I have it installed, so it says switch to Contoso Cookbook app. And one thing I want to do is when we switch then, I actually want to make sure that if you're coming from this Italian recipes page, that that we take you directly to Italian recipes in the app itself. So in default.js, when the app gets activated, before it navigates to any pages, what I want to do is just check to see if there's some arguments included. And in this case, the argument, because I didn't specify any arguments, I didn't specify that argument string, what the argument will be is the URL where I was switched from. So in this case, what I'm going to do is check and see if Italian recipes is in that URL. And if it is, then I want to go directly to the item detail with Italian recipes as being shown. Okay? So let's actually build and deploy this. And then let's switch back here and actually switch to our app. Switch to Contoso Cookbook app. And now it takes me to Italian recipes. I have my ad, so I'm making some money right there. I have my purchase, so I'm going to make some money there. And then I have my Italian recipes purchase, and I made some money there. So I just tied it all together for you. Go and put a web page out. You start promoting a product that you have. Bring people into your application. You have several different ways to monetize them once they monetize those views. Once they get into your application, you can start making some money in that way. So that was store and discovery. So the last area then is to talk a little bit about analytics, because you're going to want to know how is my application doing. And how is it not only doing from a revenue standpoint, but how many downloads am I getting? How many in-app purchases am I getting? How many people are converting from the trial to the purchase? And where are those people from? And so to do that, I'm going to bring up this store with a couple example apps. So let's switch to Internet Explorer. And I have the store over here. I've got two apps here. And I'm just going to bring up the reports for Crystal Defenders here. And what you'll see is that we really have a really rich analytics platform here for you to start to see how your application is doing performance-wise. And it looks like my session reset, so let me just hit reports one more time. And here you can kind of get an idea of all the different analytics that you'll get. Things like the number of downloads. And the neat thing about this is actually you get a comparison of your app, the number of downloads for your app, against the average for the category that you're in. And so you can kind of see, hey, how's my app doing for against other apps? How's my app doing from a ratings perspective? Do I need to improve the quality? The quality report tells me how many, say, JavaScript exceptions am I getting? How many times is my app crashing? To give you an idea there. Finance, of course, show me the money. It starts to, it shows you how much money that you've made so far in total, and you can click into those and start breaking that down as well. And then at the bottom here, you have your app purchases and your in-app purchases. And you can click into those and get more detail. Actually, you can click into any of these categories and get more detail. And for example, here, you get an idea of the different app downloads, downloads by age group, downloads by market. If you go back and go to in-app purchases, again, you'll get some breakdown of different markets, different age groups, and what they're purchasing, which products they're purchasing, how well those different products are doing. So you can really get some analytics and start to look at, over time, the different offerings that I have, the different products that I have, the different content that I have, how does it do in different regions and different age groups, and start to optimize your application to increase that revenue. And if you're doing ad-based support for your application, you'll get similar analytics with the Windows advertising engine so that you can see how the advertising is actually working within your application. So great. So we've built several different ways to monetize your application. We built several of those different ways into our example application. We saw how you can kind of track those things. All of that is to really start to take advantage of what really is the most significant developer opportunity ever in our industry. And so Giorgio actually adds some great resources. Again, if you didn't get a chance to see Giorgio's session, I recommend you go back and see that. There's also another session later this week on specifically on advertising and building advertising experiences into your application. So if you want to dive deeper into that. If you want more information on the APIs, go to the dev.windows.com. And if you want to go find the Contoso Cookbook and look at some of the samples that we used in this session, again, go out and search for Windows 8 Camp in a Box, and you'll be able to download that entire kit as well as the sample for Contoso Cookbook. So thanks very much.